Welcome to the Words to Empower podcast, featuring Bishop Frank Stewart, pastor of the Acts Ministry in Conway and North Little Rock. And now, Pastor Stewart.
You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. These are the words of Jesus. Good afternoon, friend. Good morning. We welcome you to the Acts Ministry broadcast, as we normally do. We're talking about this week, we're talking about freedom. And the subject we've chosen is the truth about freedom. What is the truth about freedom? Because only when we answer this question can we really deal with the other issue or the other question we're trying to answer, and that is, when is a person really free? In order to find out when is a person really free, we must define what freedom is. Now, here in St. John chapter 8, Jesus makes that statement that the only way a person can be free or made free is to know the truth, And I've explained to you, knowing the truth doesn't mean just mentally. It means in the sense of knowing the truth in one's soulish realm, where we do truth. It means a total different level of intimacy, total different level of intimacy of knowing the truth. So it's not the truth that sets you free. It is knowing the truth that sets you free. So this is in verse 32. What I want to do is for us to embrace St. John chapter 8. I want us to embrace that chapter, look at it, talk about some things in this chapter. And I think everything points to verse 32, what Jesus said to the religious people of his day. And this is going to be very, very key as we talk about freedom and talk about what most of us are gearing up for this week and what we're getting ready to celebrate, which is nothing wrong with that, and celebrating and experiencing a good time with our relatives and our friends. But we don't want to do that and become slaves. We don't want to do that and be slaves. Now, Paul says in Romans chapter 7, verse 19, "For the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do." That sounds like the man that is on crack or on alcohol, a man that has an addiction, or pornography, or whatever. It sounds like a person that want to do right, but then they always end up doing wrong. It's like the man that went out and used all the money on an addiction. But what we did not see is that man beating himself up the whole week when he saw his kids without it, and when he realized that the lights are off and so on. We didn't see him beating himself up. We didn't see him saying to himself, "I'm not doing this next week. The next time I get paid, I'm bringing all the money home. I'm going to take care of my family." But what happens the next time? The next time he does the same thing, because he doesn't have the power to set himself free, and he doesn't have the power to keep himself free. I want you to get that. Because the people Jesus are talking to are a group of people who think they are free. I'll say it again. He's talking to a group of people, and these are religious people, and these are the people that believed on him. He's not talking to folks that didn't believe in him. That's in verse 31 of chapter number 8. It says, "Then Jesus said to those Jews which believed on him, If ye continue my word, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." So he's talking to a group of people that believe they are free. And I believe this is where Romans 7:19 comes in, when he talks about the good that I would, I do not, but the evil that I don't want to do, I find myself doing. And I believe that before any person can really get saved, there must be a state of getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, sin sick. When a person becomes sin sick, then they look to be set free. And it doesn't matter how free we think we are physically. When Jesus talks about freedom, he talks about freedom in totality. He's talking about the very essence of the man being free. That's important for us to understand. So what we're going to try to talk about, and what we're going to try to deal with, is freedom. It's freedom and the truth about freedom. So we want to walk through St. John chapter 8. We're going to start at verse number 1, and we want to walk through this. It says in St. John chapter 8, starting at verse 1, now understand the backdrop here is St. John 8:32, you shall know the truth. The truth shall make you free. And also the other key verse is Romans 7:18. For the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not do, that I do. In essence, what he's saying, when I want to do good, I don't do what I want to do. I end up doing what I don't want to do. End up doing what I'm ashamed of. And that is called an addiction. That is a sin addiction. And without Jesus Christ, we all have that. But in the verse 1, as we walk down to verse 32 and just encompass the whole chapter, I think he's going to point some things out to us concerning freedom. It says in verse 1, Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple. And all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery, in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? Or, Jesus, what do you say? It says in verse 6, this they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down, and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself, said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. Now, first 10 verses I read for you. The first thing, the chapter starts off with a story of a woman being caught in the very act of adultery. In the very act of it. What this says is this woman was not free. Because freedom is not being able to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it. That is not freedom. That is not freedom. So what this says to us is those that violate the laws of God are not free. That means that every adulterer is not free. Those that have sex outside of marriage are not free. They're in bondage. They're in slavery. To what? To sin. To the flesh. So only way we can get set free now, if we're willing to listen to the truth about freedom. See, what is the truth about freedom? Because everybody got a different definition. That's why we got to go to the Bible. You know, America wanted to be free from Great Britain. And what was said was taxation without representation. We said that was tyranny. You know, you taxing me, but I don't have any representation. We didn't call that freedom. But after they got free from Great Britain or the mother country, then we have a group of people that's coming from Africa that are enslaved. And let me tell you, no man can be free if he enslaves another person or another man. He himself is not free. He himself also is a sin, or a slave, rather. So this woman, even though she was probably 3 times 7, she was not free to commit adultery. And the religious people of her day, the religious men of her day, they brought her to Jesus because they not only wanted to stone her, they wanted to stone Jesus because they themselves are slaves. Isn't it something? Another slave trying to punish another slave for being enslaved. Let me say that again so you can really get that. When we talk about slavery, can you imagine one slave trying to punish another person who has been enslaved to something that is different from what has enslaved them, because they were enslaved. Now, this woman, she was enslaved here. She was enslaved to sin. She's committing adultery. But these people were enslaved to bitterness and jealousy and envy. The most difficult people Jesus dealt with on the planet was religious people. I don't know why we don't understand that. The most difficult person to set free is the person usually has been born on the pews, raised on the pews, set in religious tradition, is the most difficult person to set free in the world. So here, these men, they brought this woman because she was taking a very act of adultery. She was guilty. She was guilty. But let me tell you, brothers and sisters, they also were guilty. Because first off, where is the man? Now, unless you believe that they had already stoned the man to death and they brought the woman to Jesus because they had already stoned the man, unless you believe that, there's a problem with this. Now, I don't believe they'd already killed the man and brought the woman. Now, if you caught them in the very act of adultery, that means the act of it, she had to be acting with somebody. So it had to be two of them. So it should have been two brought, should have been two stoned to death. Now, that's the law. That was the law. But it didn't happen like that. They only brought the woman. And maybe they did stone the man already. I don't believe that. But they brought the woman to Jesus, verse 6 says, to tempt him. So here again, they want the woman to be stoned to death because she is a slave of sin, sexual sins, but they themselves are slaves of jealousy, envy, bitterness, and unforgiveness. See, and even though they're going to church, and they're religious leaders, they're still slaves. Jesus tried to ignore them. The Bible says they continued to ask him, tempting him. Jesus wrote on the ground. It says that he tried to ignore them. He tried to act as though he did not hear them, as though he heard them not. But they kept on asking. So what Jesus did to really determine and to help them to understand what freedom is all about, he asked a very simple question. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. Now, this is truth. He did not tell him don't stone her because that would not be true, because the law of Moses said that. So he didn't say that, but he just said, whoever's free, you throw the first stone.
For mobile giving, text the amount you wish to donate to 501-302-4242.
The Acts Church in North Little Rock is located at 1224 Franklin Street. For more information, go to actsministriesonline.org or give us a call at 501-329-2055.
Thank you for tuning in to the Acts Ministry Podcast. The Acts Church is located at 1423 Indian Street in Conway and 1224 Franklin Street in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Tune in each day to hear an inspiring word from Pastor Frank Stewart.